There's a box of Twinkies in that grocery store. Not just any box of Twinkies. The last box of Twinkies that anyone will enjoy in the whole universe.
Hi there, welcome to the 3.5 Walls podcast. I'm Austin Zwiebelman.
I'm Jackson Morrill.
And today we're going to be talking about the 2009 film Zombieland.
Zombieland, a cult classic and I think a standout in zombie cinema.
Absolutely. If anybody remembers the 2000s, George W. Bush, first term Barack Obama, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, or whatever, they introduced the zombies.
I think 2009 was Halo 3 ODST, so that was 2009. That was Modern Warfare 2.
In 2003, this book just like slammed into stores, and it was called The Zombie Survival Guide. And after that, it just gradually crept in and became a part of college, high school, and just like young person culture. Everyone was just like, I think we like zombies now, and they collectively agreed. Hollywood got the memo and then proceeded to fucking-barred us with zombie movies.
What did we have leading up to this? We had 28 Days Later and Shaun of the Dead in the same month. What else? We had it was Dawn of the Dead and Shaun of the Dead that somehow came out very close to each other.
Dawn of the Dead, Zack Snyder's best movie.
And
fight me.
And one of James Gunn's better scripts.
Fight me on that.
I'm not going to fight you. I haven't personally watched it because it's a solid horror movie, but I've seen like shots and the scenes and stuff, and it's just kind of one of those things where you have to recognize it for the skill that they implemented into crafting that one. But we're talking about Zombieland, which zombie comedy is its own subgenre.
Absolutely. You have films like Warm Bodies, Life After Beth, and if you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, the highest rated ones are things like Return of the Living Dead, which is way before the 2000s with a 91, Shaun of the Dead with a 92, and right below in third place is this little thing we like to fucking call Zombieland.
Zombieland.
I absolutely was terrified the first time I revisited this movie because there are so many movies from my childhood that have just not aged well.
Yeah, this is one of those weird cases where it's totally a crapshoot whether or not it's going to hold up, and I think we can safely say that this was a top-to-bottom enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it aged about as well as most of its cast did going into the movie that's coming out this October.
Yeah, double tap.
We're sort of lubing up for a theatrical experience that we'll probably talk about somewhere down the line. They're making Zombieland 2 double tap. The trailer came out suspiciously close to the release date, and the director, Ruben Fleischer, he hasn't really made a movie this good since Zombieland.
Right. I mean, we had 30 minutes or less, which I didn't look into like the critical score of any of his other
44
things.
on Rotten Tomatoes.
44 on Rotten Tomatoes. That doesn't surprise me. We had a Gangster Squad, which is the fucking worst name I could ever imagine, but the film, just the trailer that you showed me, looked gorgeous.
Yeah, but I would have liked it more if it was Gangsterland. It's just Jesse Eisenberg walking around and he's like, hey, did you know I made the Facebooks? We gotta stop Mickey Cohen, make the Zuckerberg happen. Yeah. But it was Ruben Fleischer's productions after Zombieland were sort of fraught with studio meddling and fuck-ups. 30 Minutes or Less was just organically a bad movie, wholly in part due to the director and the writer. I think the writer's only other credit besides 30 Minutes or Less is the new Aquaman movie, which no one's praising for its writing.
Right.
But
there are people praising it, but not for the writing.
Yeah, it's either 30 Minutes or Less or Gangster Squad, where the writer's only other credit is Aquaman. So Ruben Fleischer wasn't working with a whole deck there. But with Gangster Squad, the Aurora shooting happened, and so they had to reshoot the ending of the movie, which ballooned its budget, and also kind of fucked up the movie. Right. And then after Gangster Squad, he did Venom. Which he wanted to make R-rated. He went on in interviews and was just like, yeah, it would be pretty fucking stupid to make a Venom movie without, him eating people's heads and drinking their brains. And then the studio was like,
are you sure about that?
So, his movies since Zombieland have been sort of castrated to be these, like, PG-13 big studio things, save 30 Minutes or Less, which was just, like, this weird, mean-spirited adaptation of a real death that happened in 2003. That for some reason, the writers of the film denied. Fuck it, we don't even have to get into that.
Yeah, but wait. Are we? Was Gangster Squad PG-13?
No, Gangster Squad, I believe, was R, but they had to reshoot it after the Aurora shooting, because the original finale was, I think the Gangster Squatters shooting shooting up a movie theater from behind the screen. And so this guy walks into a fucking movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, and just like fucking blows the place apart.
Opens fire on screenings of The Dark Knight Rises, because that was like 2011.
And somewhere in America, Ruben Fleischer just shit all of his pants, and the production, kind of fell apart.
All 12 pairs of them.
And so then, we're back 10 years later with him doing a Zombieland sequel with the original two writers, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick.
Yeah.
And it's sort of been a bumpy ride between this movie from 2009 and its 10-year anniversary edition featuring all the original cast, the original player models, and upgraded Abigail Breslin.
Yeah, Abigail Breslin has aged 10 years. She turned 13 during the production of Zombieland, apparently, as I learned yesterday night.
Abigail Breslin is the only thing that's aged about the Zombieland property.
Right, and I'm wondering if they'll take that time jump into account. I feel like they have to, because even though we joke that these actors are kind of evergreen, there's still elements of them aging. Emma Stone is obviously a decade older.
Jesse Eisenberg can't make jokes about Facebook in the new movie like he did in the old one without us feeling weird.
That was like the greatest unintentional stealth pun.
There is a part in Zombieland where Jesse Eisenberg is like, and you know what's the best part about all this? No more Facebook updates.
Jesse Eisenberg. And it came out 2 years before he, 2 years or a year before he was Zuckerberg?
I think The Social Network was 2010.
Okay, so it was a year.
So it was interesting to watch after the fact.
Right.
There was there are some cultural references in Zombieland that they're not completely lost on us because we were high schoolers in the aughts.
Right.
Children, teenagers in the aughts.
Yes, for sure. Zombieland is just it wears the fact that all of its humor is kind of low-hanging fruit on its sleeve and manages to make that worth watching, which is wild.
I absolutely loved some of the physical gags. Like it's a very fun road trip movie, more so than it's a horror movie or a comedy. It falls into being a road trip movie. I feel like the thing that would confuse the audiences the most going forward, like if we show this to somebody in like 10 years, is just maybe if we, the scene where he freaks out over Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray.
How do you feel like that's gonna age?
I mean, Bill Murray is still kind of... I think Bill Murray was on decline back then, and that was kind of the gag, is that it was just some actor who hadn't done anything of note in recent years, and so it was just kind of riding high off of his old stuff, and Ghostbusters is probably going to be a timeless classic from time immemorial.
Is there still the same love for Bill Murray that used to be around in 2009? Because I remember when this came out, the people I saw the movie with worshipped Bill Murray and like bought merch with Bill Murray on it, and we're suddenly watching Wes Anderson movies for the first time because Bill Murray was in them.
I don't know. My thing with Bill Murray is that it's just like, it's looking at him, yeah, he made a bunch of like really relevant movies in the 70s, 80s, and just kind of lived off of that. He'll make an appearance every now and then, but it's usually either a minor role or in a film that's not too great. And I think that...
Don't sleep on Lost in Translation. Sofia Coppola's staring at you angrily from the benches.
Oh yes, I'm sure she listens to us here.
Yep. When she's taking time, not being Hollywood royalty, gradually constructing her perfect masterpiece that is the Bling Ring 2. It does bear just a quick note. In the original screenplay, when they were first adapting this into a feature after transforming it from being a TV pilot, they wanted Patrick Swayze, and in 2009 when they reached out to the Sways,
he was battling pancreatic cancer and was too sick to be in anything.
So that's pretty fucking unfortunate that they couldn't get Dalton from Roadhouse.
Yeah, they kind of doused all those dreams in fire, and then they went down a list of at most 10 different actors before, like you stated originally, and I was concerned when you said this, because I'm like, is it really settling for Bill Murray? But they settled for Bill Murray. Like, Mark Hamill was in consideration for the role.
Sylvester Stallone, Joe Pesci, Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Bacon, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and McConaughey.
Oh, McConaughey would have been really funny after True Detective. Matthew fucking McConaughey!
Marty, why are you wearing that fucking hat?
Regardless,
the cast ended up being A1 fucking solid.
Phenomenal. It's really funny because Woody Harrelson was the one they fought the most for. and then the rest were kind of like, maybe we'll get Dreamcast, and they also stumbled across. Like, Jesse Eisenberg, I think, was one of the first to read for the Columbus role, and then, even though they tested other actors against Woody Harrelson, who, at that point, they managed to commit to the project after Woody's lengthy demands of what would need to happen for him to be on the set.
The two secret demands that, according to fucking the director, were very reasonable, and then the two demands I think he talked about in an interview were just like, he wanted an environmentally friendly set, so I assume just like green porta potties. I don't know. I don't
Something
fucking know.
like that. He got permission to design all of Tallahassee's wardrobe, which turned out really well, and made sure that the wardrobe was like sustainably sourced, so it's not like a real snakeskin jacket. It's faux, and then his hat was like specifically made of recycled tarps.
Do you call that fake skin jacket?
Yes, that's exactly what you call it. He also because apparently something that neither of us knew until we looked this up, Woody Harrelson is hardline vegan and very environmentally conscious.
Do you think that would be awkward if I don't know if his dad's still in the picture, but imagine your father is a hitman and your son turns out vegan? Yeah, my dad didn't have any respect for human life, so now I don't even need anything with a face.
Jesus.
He made one of his, it sounds kind of like a weird bet that you'd make with your friends, but he made Ruben Fleischer not eat dairy for a week.
Yes.
That was one of his demands, or he wouldn't do the role.
And against all odds, Ruben Fleischer then stuck to a roughly vegetarian diet for 11 months, 10 or 11, somewhere in there. It's just really funny that Woody Harrelson, it sounds like he was making just like a really funny practical joke, but I mean, that was his demands for being on the movie, and he fucking knocked it out of the park. I think he had the most laughs from you and I.
If you look into the interview where Fleischer revealed that Harrelson made him go, not eat dairy for a week, he reveals why that was so tough for him. It was right around Memorial Day weekend. Like, the week overlapped into Memorial Day weekend. So there was like this funny side episode of Ruben Fleischer around a bunch of barbecues unable to eat cheese. Hey, Ruben, I got a burger for you. Ah, fuck, man. Can you make me another? What, Ruben? You don't eat cheese no more? It's Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson.
You'd understand.
He just like looks off into the distance, and there's Woody Harrelson with binoculars and a lever action rifle and a sling on his hip.
Yeah, Harrelson was the highlight of this movie. Everybody else did great, and it's just a matter of who did the greatest.
Yeah, it's a fantastic film. I mean, and it's really funny because it breaks a lot of conventions that I know as film people we kind of hold dear, where there's not an overarching plot across the movie. And a part of this is a result of the narrative view of being stuck in Columbus's view. And another part of it is being adapted from what was supposed to be a TV pilot. Elements of that are still held over, and what feels like is they pulled the plot from two different episodes that they had like in the wings, and then just pushed them together into the film in a way that still works. So Columbus is our central character, and the movie starts with him wanting to get to Columbus, Ohio. That's the whole gag of these characters. The big part of Zombieland's world is they all just refer to the towns that they're from. And Columbus's is to get back home. He wants to go back to Columbus, Ohio, and see his family and make sure they're okay.
It's like the inciting incident is when he meets Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
They eventually team up with these two girls who keep punking them and taking all their shit.
Wichita and Little Rock, and what is some really good physical comedy that could have been exacerbated to absurdist levels, but that's just that's me speaking personally.
Right. They keep pointing guns at each other, and there's a point where eventually they take the guns back and decide to coexist, but they don't keep switching the guns back and forth, I think was your note from the movie yesterday.
They don't keep switching the guns back and forth, and at every vocal slight, they don't stop the car and point the guns at each other again, which is something that I would have fucking loved, because I like absurdist comedy that just keeps repeating over and over.
They're not a Mexican standoff generator.
But no, so there's a point where Wichita, Emma Stone's character, just declares that, oh yeah, Columbus, Ohio burned to the ground, and we just kind of see all of the light die in Jesse Eisenberg's eyes, and Woody Harrelson just like, you shouldn't have done that.
You don't need to hear things like that. You just a boy.
And there's a little text in the corner that says Jesse Eisenberg will remember this.
It's at a really weird point in the screenplay when they say Columbus, Ohio is just fucking gone. It is like at the break into two. It's very early on in the movie that just the protagonist, whose point of view, is what the movie follows. Mm-hmm. Just everything, like his whole plot line's destroyed.
Right, and then kind of like the midpoint of the movie is he has the opportunity to jump ship and just go his own way, which could have been the ending of the TV pilot, but instead he just closes the door and they keep on driving towards California, Los Angeles.
One metric that I now use, since we're like fully entrenched in everything Zombieland, from all the production details made public, onward into everything that's been made before Double Tap, I now have this like invincible, infallible tool of gauging why I praise the actors in this movie so much, and it's called the 2013 Amazon Zombieland pilot.
Oh no, we're already talking about this?
We don't have to go in depth, but I wanted to parallel our conversation about the movie because the people need to understand how good Zombieland is, and one of those ways to gauge that metric is just to go, well, it could have been this.
It could have been this. Oh god. So literally an hour ago, we finished the Amazon-ordered spec pilot for what Zombieland as a TV series could have been.
And the writing is much worse, significantly worse. They're just like really ridiculous, shitty things that happen in the TV pilot that just are missing from the Zombieland. Like Zombieland, the movie, has actual charm, whereas the TV pilot feels like it was written by a couple of uncles while they're like getting mean drunk on beer.
Yeah, it's by people who are way too entrenched in an urban environment, whereas the original Zombieland, there's something really beautiful that I pointed out about it, that it feels kind of centered in Western Americana, but in a modern sense, where when they're out on the road, most of the scenery is single small buildings, small towns, and there's multiple shots that are just kind of like the flat plains and forests of the American Midwest to West, and just singular roads winding through the countryside. There's something very Western Americana, modern day, about it, even though it's post-apocalypse dressed. In fact, I think we joked that one of the sets that they did, they just went onto the set of The Walking Dead Season 2 after they finished filming.
Don't slight the production designer like that. I think this predated The Walking Dead. Well, they did the thing where they line up a bunch of like fucking crashed out cars on a very long road.
Yes, and it looked exactly like the one in The Walking Dead, which, I mean, they were both shot in Georgia, so it's reasonable to assume that they could have shared assets, but probably not.
Zombieland the movie is expansive. It looks expansive and lovely. Zombieland the show looks claustrophobic and shitty. Mm-hmm. And also, Tallahassee in the movie is charming and actually looks like a dimwit. Mm-hmm. Like, he looks like an especially dim-witted country bumfuck person.
Somehow Woody Harrelson, despite being like this really well-educated vegan person, can pull off rednecks so fucking well.
Well, he's got the goofiest goddamn face, which is the fun part of the bait and switch. He's a smart guy and a great actor, and he looks like a dumb asshole if you put him in that hat.
Oh my god. It's perfect casting. And that was the serious problem with the Amazon show, is none of the actors really carried the charisma that the cast of Zombieland did.
For instance, Wichita and Columbus. In the movie, they look like they're almost the same age.
Right. And then
in the show, it looks like some strange like incest porn thing where they've got like the stepmother bangs son, and the stepmother's a normal looking woman in her 30s, and the son is some porn actor in his mid 20s who looks like a twink or something. Like, he's just this like real young looking piece of garbage, and Wichita just looks like this woman who like graduated high school when he was entering elementary school, and then like the second scene of the TV pilot, he's like, that's Wichita. I love her. And I'm just like, kid, please.
Yeah, there were multiple elements that it was clear they were banking off, because it's like the Zombieland graphics package was the same, although the text was not 3D, it was 2D in the show.
No, it was 3D. What you got wrong there is the lighting was garbage. They used like flat lighting, which is the weirdest look. Like, if you noticed on the beveled edges of the letters, it was basically the same brightness as the front faces, which makes no fucking sense.
I did not notice because was we watched that garbage in 480p because it didn't deserve to be watched in HD, and also they tried to purge it from the content stream.
It's no longer on Amazon Prime. We watched this rip of it with hard-coded Spanish subs.
However, the issue is that they were trying to kind of bank off of, people have watched Zombieland, so let's kind of continue the story where it ended, where they're all a family now.
That was the most fucking insulting part of it. Mm-hmm. There's this opening scene where they have this irritating conversation in this office, and it's just written like absolute fucking garbage. Like one of those newspaper comics from the Sunday paper where it's like, millennials are on their cell phones too much. Like that caliber of fucking writing.
It's just fucking people being like really, really into health food for some reason.
Somebody unironically says hashtag first world problems. So that this guy rolls in to these two office people who are having the shittiest conversation, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I brought you pickles on your tuna fish.
You put pickles on a tuna sandwich?
What the fuck? And this zombie bursts in, and, the scene stops and has the narrator, just like Zombieland does, and it's like, take a quick guess. Who survives? And naturally, the two shitty people having the worst conversation ever get fucking bit and eaten. And then, the food cart guy suddenly starts beating wholesale ass.
He literally lifts up the entire food cart and jams it down on a zombie.
And then the narrator's like, maybe you would have guessed who it was if you knew where this scene takes place. A little state called Florida in a town called Tallahassee. And I was just sitting there and I'm just like, well, shouldn't this stand on its own a little bit?
Yeah, also the light died in my eyes when I realized that this kind of like pudgy looking motherfucker who not only looks nothing like Woody Harrelson, no offense to, because like I'm pudgy, we're pudgy, but I wouldn't cast somebody with that kind of body type in the action role that is Tallahassee. Tallahassee has a weird form of like cowboy stoicism about him. This guy just comes off as a jackass.
He's a big chunk of whale meat that somebody slammed on a table and God gave a face.
Oh, boy.
He's not an unattractive guy, but he just looks like a dude that you would cast as an extra in like a scene at a tailgate party where somebody really wants to pretend they're still in state college.
Right.
Like he looks like a sports dad. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile he's supposed to play our like lovable cowboy bumpkin, and he's fucking terrible at it. But that really just gives you an appreciation for, one, the fact A-list actors are where they're at.
Right.
It makes you understand, like, not every child actor is Abigail Breslin. Even if they can deliver lines, there's something fucking special when you pay to get the Breslin and the Harrelson and the Stone and the Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Because they sort of are like these weird, like, imagine a Walmart imitation brand of a cereal, and then imagine finding another box in your friend's house that's somehow shittier than that. That is downgrading all the way down to the Zombieland pilot. It's not just knockoff Jesse Eisenberg, because I can find a guy probably in the state of Missouri who looks enough and talks enough like Jesse Eisenberg. No, they found a guy who has the essence of Jesse Eisenberg distilled down to like 25% Eisenberg.
Although he does have more inflection than Eisenberg, I don't think that's necessarily in the favor of the tone set forth.
It makes you appreciate this thing that Jesse Eisenberg did really well in the 2000s. So there was this appropriation of nerd culture that happened, and people still talk about this.
Big Bang Theory.
Where the Big Bang Theorying of everything, where people were just like, oh yeah, we got sexy nerds now because it's cool to be a nerd because, the tech sector became the only profitable sector in, like, American industry. Basically just industrial jobs just got fucking sucked out of here and shipped off to China, India, and Mexico. And they're like, well, since I guess that everyone's a computer programmer now, like, everybody who's happy is a fucking something to do with a computer now, I guess nerd culture's in. I think that's, like, the macroeconomic reason this cultural shift happened. For some reason, nerd culture just banged us in the face. And Jesse Eisenberg had this really interesting spot in that where he was this total fucking dork. Geek shit. You believe it when he says in the opening scene he has IBS, right. Even though they do not show him shitting once in the whole movie, because he just looks like somebody who has IBS, and that's like a weird characteristic stereotype. But he also has this thing where you find it charming. You find him like handsome and admirable, and you want him to like when he makes an incremental step towards like killing one zombie at the end.
It was a zombie clown, which is somehow his worst fear because on top of like this movie existing on B grade level. Of course, our main character's worst fear is not zombies, it is clowns.
So his big hero moment is that he kills one clown, or one zombie clown.
And let's be real, this zombie clown is the only credited zombie in the entire cast list.
Which when you... the credits to this movie are so funny. There's only like 6 people.
There are 6 people credited. The main 4, the obvious cameo, spoiler...
Bill Murray and Amber Heard.
No, Amber Heard was not credited.
Amber Heard was fucking credited as 406 in the credits. I remember.
Then there's 7 people. It was a clown zombie was the 7th for some reason.
It's a really, really small arc compared to Tallahassee, who just like he gets this glorious scene in the finale where he's surrounded by enough zombies to make you think this is the ship going down in Titanic moment, and instead he just kills all of them.
Yeah. It's really goofy, too, because he's straight up, it is like a Western, and it reads like this is his end. He sets up his 4 remaining magazines, plus the 2 in his dual-wielding pistols that are in the chamber, locks the gates of this play booth, and then just waits as these running zombies just surround him.
Total carnage. And it's just fucking, it's beautiful, but if you think about it, Jesse Eisenberg being the main is ridiculous. Imagine if Tallahassee was the main.
If Tallahassee was the main, I feel like the movie would actually be significantly darker, because Tallahassee's whole thing is that he's using the zombies as an excuse to just not face what happened in the past.
Absolutely, because... well, let's not, just in case. That is one thing that's beautiful not to spoil. I forgot there's anything to spoil in Zombieland, because you can be like, oh yeah, they all survived, but there's still something you don't want to spoil in Zombieland.
Yeah, there's a couple things, but that one's something that we highly recommend the movie at the bottom line. That's why we're covering it. We generally cover things that we like and want to share our thoughts on.
For those of you who have seen the movie, it still holds up. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, boy, oh fuck, are you in for it.
Right, there's excessive slow motion, and that in its own way is somehow really funny.
They shot this on a fucking Panavision Genesis, and there's this funny story I want to tell you real quick. So Emma Stone's getting interviewed for Zombieland, and there's some fucking interviewer was just like, so you shot this on the Panavision Genesis, digital 35mm camera, that's fucking neat. And Emma Stone was like, yeah, embarrassing thing about that. So I've been on like 5 films now, and on each of them, people are just like, oh yeah, you're a film actress, you're on film. And then somebody finally pulls me aside and tells me, no, you've never been on film. Because it's been a digital camera every single time, Emma Stone. Like, she had worked on Panavision Genesis films almost exclusively, and she had like this sad moment doing an interview where she's like, yep, never been on film, technically.
I've never been preserved in a master reel that is not destroyed for the safety of the production.
It's got a really nice like late 2000s digital look where it's contrasty as shit. They go into this like really nuts ass slow motion, and they really relish in it. They have like particle bits that come out organically. Like, there's a scene where they destroy a fucking, I don't know, Native American themed gift shop.
Yeah, what is it? Kemosabe, I think it's called. It's really stupid.
But they're like breaking shit, and there's just like little beads flying everywhere in slow motion, stuff where you know that the DP, who was, I think his last name is, I shit you not, Bondvillain. I forget his first name, but his last name is Bondvillain. He's the guy who shot Cloverfield. And
yeah.
You know he was just grinning like a fucking idiot when he shot those slow motion scenes, because he was just like, this is gonna look real fucking good in 4K.
And the production designer there, who did a phenomenal job, should we add, like
he's on the DVD special features, and he's the one guy where I was just like, yeah, that guy gets to gloat.
Yeah, it was pretty nice seeing him just kind of like talk about setting up the highway and stuff. But you know, he looked at all of this and is like, they better not fuck up any of the takes destroying this, because I'm not resetting.
That would give a filmmaker anxiety watching the Kemosabe scene, because that's got to be more than a few days of just like setup. Oh, and the grocery. Fortunately, they don't destroy the grocery store, but they made a grocery store from scratch.
And then they showed a lot of the key tricks that they did, like filling all of the frozen lockers with just paper printed of goods.
It was very surreal. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. Imagine just going into a grocery store and you open up a freezer and it's just a printout of all the shit on the shelf.
Isn't that a gag in fucking The Interview?
I think it is. Yeah, James Franco goes into one of those like North Korean towns they take the tourists through, and he's like, it's all fake.
say grapefruit!
Oh, we both watched The Interview, didn't we?
I loved The Interview because I just pretend the first third of it didn't happen.
Really, the only thing I enjoyed was the Eminem cameo.
What? Okay, Eminem being gay was a pretty funny way to begin your movie.
That's like the only thing I outright enjoyed in the whole movie. We're way off course right now.
Who cares? We're talking about Kim Jong-un, motherfucker.
So, I'm going to round this conversation all the way back to something I was talking about, where Zombieland really kind of meanders with its plot, and it devotes all the time that it spends kind of plotless, where we know that Wichita and Little Rock have the goal of going to Pacific Playland. That's introduced pretty quickly around the same time that Columbus, Ohio's hopes are dashed of going back to Columbus, Ohio.
And it's a pretty dumb dream and becomes the plot line of the movie on accident.
Right, and it feels like two TV episodes kind of mashed together, but in a way that's functional, because the whole time we're kind of settled in Columbus realizing that he didn't have a family when the apocalypse started because the city's gone, and gaining his own family. And I'm a sucker for narratives like that. It's why I think Guardians of the Galaxy, both 1 and 2, are very strong movies. And Zombieland operates on those exact same principles. 4 characters who really don't have anything to relate to find each other because the circumstances give them reason to care.
A lot like Guardians, the characters will try to kill each other. You know you've got a solid screenplay when there's a point where your audience is convinced these two clashing parties might actually hurt each other.
There's a point where Abigail Breslin is like pointing Woody Harrelson's lever action rifle at Woody Harrelson, and is like, do you know how to use that? She fires and you're like, oh my gee, Jesus wearing pants, don't kill me with my own gun. Apparently Woody Harrelson improvised a lot of things, like when they peel the cold dead hands off of the Hummer steering wheel.
And he like does the It Chapter 1 thing where he waves at Jesse Eisenberg. He flips the middle finger up.
That was an improvised thing. And there was another one because apparently Woody Harrelson and Abigail Breslin just were having fun on this set. Abigail, first of all, loved being a part of this.
She wanted to be a zombie, which we found out in the interviews.
She begged them to change the ending, apparently, because she was 13 and she doesn't know. She doesn't really get stories or anything, but she was like, can I be a zombie so I can have the makeup? And they were like, no, Abigail Breslin, you cannot. But there was a point where Abigail Breslin is sitting in the front seat of this Hummer while Woody Harrelson is driving and straight up describing the plot of Hannah Montana, and the whole time Woody Harrelson is just like, yes, but is she really famous? No, she's only famous when she's wearing the wig. That was entirely just Abigail Breslin was just like, let's throw this in.
And they somehow got the license for the song Popular from Wicked, which was a huge hit only 3 years prior.
Yeah?
Which I know because I'm an embarrassing little bitch.
It's cool to know trivia. We're all cool here.
I was a musical theater kid once upon a time. They don't like me anymore because I started sleeping with people. But ain't that theater?
Jesus.
High school.
Oh, man.
I'm glad that they didn't turn Little Miss Sunshine into a ghoul.
And that's something that's kind of interesting. I was reading a lot of trivia about this, and Ruben talked about the zombies in this movie. They don't operate under your standard zombie rules. There's some inconsistencies. Jesse Eisenberg still refers to them as undead. But just based on the discussions that Ruben had, all of the zombies are still alive, which is why headshots aren't actually a thing, and it's a lot like Left 4 Dead, where it's just a virus that infects people, except there's no immunity to it. You get sick if you get bit, but if you can avoid sources of the disease, then you're fine. And so they're just running around capping all of these really, really hungry people that have been driven insane.
Did you know one of the makeup guys who did the zombies worked on the Michael Jackson Thriller video?
Yeah, was he the lead or?
I think he was the lead guy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What I liked, one of the special features on the DVD that was fun as a filmmaker to watch was, or just hear them talk up, was the incremental times that would and levels of detail it would take. They had 3 levels of detail for the zombies.
There was zombies that would appear in close-ups, which was a lot of prosthetics, a lot of makeup, and
60 minutes time.
Minimum 60. I think that they had upwards of 2 hours for 406 zombie.
Yeah, and they fucked up Amber Heard in this movie.
And then there was the base level, which is like stuff leading the front of crowds and medium shots. Those would take about
30 minutes.
30 minutes, and then there was
the 15-minute zombies who just had shit dripping off of them.
Yeah, they basically just, like, took some spray paint and put some red on them, and, like, you're good. These zombies are kind of gross, too. It's something that I wasn't really prepared for, and it was acceptable to a degree where I wasn't, like, grossed out watching it, but they're, like, spewing blood and puke from their mouths whenever they're in the close-up shots. That's just, like, one of the things that they do. And it's really cool to see somebody who's, like, dedicated to making zombies look really, really gross.
That's one of my favorite things about Zombieland was that it was a hard R rating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have a lot of faith in Zombieland 2, because everyone, Reddit threads, friends of mine, fucking people who talk about movies, always bring up the fact that Ruben Fleischer hasn't made a movie with a fucking 90% or something comparable on Rotten Tomatoes. Just like a good movie since Zombieland.
Mm-hmm.
His directorial debut of all fucking things.
Right.
And I think it's because if you read up on that shit, it's always because, well, save 30 minutes or less, which is just a bad fucking idea, because who puts Aziz Ansari in a fucking movie?
No one. No one with ideas, anyway.
What kind of man talks to the Aziz Ansari? No man. No man at all. And just besides 30 minutes or less, Gangster Squad and Venom are these two movies where the studio got fucked. Like something got really fucked up late stage in development. Venom got turned from an R rating into a PG-13, and Gangster Squad had to get completely have its ending reshot.
It was shot R. Venom was shot R.
Right, and releasing Venom PG-13 is fucking ludicrous. It's like releasing Jaws with a PG rating.
Right.
Oh wait, nuts. Okay, no. Something that works. It's like
Red Dawn 2, the remake of Red Dawn.
It's like releasing RoboCop with a PG-13 rating. Fuck! It's like releasing Total Recall with a PG-13 rating. Shit! I don't think I'm gonna make this work, Jackson.
All I know is that I'm really excited for Zombieland 2 because they're definitely expanding the cast. They're kind of playing on what types of people survived the apocalypse, and it seems to be a recurring gag where it's either people who are really fucking stupid or exact copies of the characters that exist.
They did the Eric Andre show sort of doppelganger thing.
Right.
At the end of the trailer, they've got Luke Wilson and Thomas Middleditch come in as fucking Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg stand-ins. And that's pretty great, because I'm wondering if they're hiding an Emma Stone stand-in from us, and if so, I wonder if she's single.
I think that it's going to be really good. Rosario Dawson's in this movie, and she's like one of my top fives. Just a favorite person I love seeing in movies. But I think that we know what the true version of Zombieland will be, and it's when the writers get a chance to reshoot the pilot, but for the cast, they include Michael Cera as Columbus, Michael Rooker as Tallahassee,
it burns!
Lupita Nyong'o as Wichita, and the girl who plays Shuri in Black Panther as Little Rock. That is the ideal cast for Zombieland the series.
Well, I think Lupita Nyong'o is actually zombied out because she's got that movie Little Monsters coming out soon, where she plays like a preschool daycare teacher lady, and they're just like on a field trip, and then zombies happen, and she's trying to keep all the kids from freaking out, so she's lying about the fact zombies are happening. She's like, oh, it's a game, while she's simultaneously having to like fucking murder zombies.
Wait, is that actually a movie coming out?
Yeah, that's actually a movie coming out.
Ooh, I'm interested. Is it played for horror or played for laughs?
Both.
Okay.
So we get another one of these, which is like kind of to end this. We're seeing a slight resurgence. Like The Dead Don't Die came out, and while it was marketed, like the trailer came out on April Fool's, everyone thought that movie was going to be a fucking prank.
Oh my god, you've told me about this, and it's a movie that I really want to see now because it just looks so fucking stupid and knows exactly what it is.
It is a real-ass bloody zombie comedy.
Right.
And it does have that Jim Jarmusch thing where it's basically mumblecore Zombieland.
Zombies.
It's hipster Zombieland.
What's your Adam Driver impression for that movie?
You know, zombies, the undead, ghouls. But I remember sitting in there watching The Dead Don't Die thinking this was going to be a prank because, again, to reiterate, the trailer came out on April fucking Fool's Day. and it looks real low budget. And I watch it and I'm like, holy shit, I love this. I love zombie comedies. Like, I love major release zombie comedies. Because you know what happened? We had a real ass cool down.
Yeah.
We had an authentic, bona fide fucking cool down between the last wave of zombie comedies and this new one that's happening. Bring on Little Monsters. Bring on Zombieland 2. Fuck it. I'm ready, okay? Give me that post-apocalypse world where I follow around a bunch of people who somehow look like they showered. Give me that R-rated gore. Throw in some weird subplot about someone just needing to find a Twinkie. I don't give a fuck. I'm ready for this to come back.
I am too. I've adored zombies since I was kind of like a kid, and so Zombieland 2 seems like the perfect opportunity to just bring that back, and I know I'm looking forward to this movie.
So we have something to be excited about, talk to you about in October. For right now, we can at least rest on the fact that this classic zombie comedy aged like fine fucking wine.
And only one other comedy has done better than it on Rotten Tomatoes as far as zombie comedies go.
What the fuck could you be possibly talking
I'm
about?
talking about our next podcast,
Oh my god!
where we cover
The Cornetto Trilogy.
Dun Dun Dun.